Hi, my name is Michael Hicks, and I have chosen the Curtiss-Wright Corporation for the presentation for Aviation 314. Here is a 10-year stock performance for Curtiss-Wright. They are traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and their symbol is CW. At the time of this video, their current stock price is $169.46. As you can see from the performance, it has been on a steady incline since 2013 all the way up until 2020. That can most likely be attributed to COVID, because I believe just about every corporation took a significant hit. However, it did not affect the upward trend. It took the hit in 2020 and it continued climbing after that. A little bit of history on Curtiss-Wright. It was established in 1929. It was with the merger of the Curtiss Aeroplane and Motor Corporation along with the Wright Aeronautical Corporation. Both companies were successful on their own, but when they merged, the Wright brothers were no longer involved in their company. Wilbur had already passed, and Orville had left to pursue other interests. In the 1930s is when Curtiss-Wright began the engine advancements. They were working on such advancements like air-cooled engines, because a lot of the engines of that time were liquid-cooled and they presented a lot of problems and failures. So they worked on air-cooled engines. They designed finned cylinder heads to assist with the cooling, and they also worked on radial engines, and they pioneered variable pitch propellers, which enabled the propellers to be disengaged to prevent engine rotation while the engine was off. And with these advancements and their designs, they were actually asked to build the radial engines for the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. They also produced the P-36 Hawk. It was a single-engine fighter aircraft, and the Army Air Corps put in an order for them, and when all 236 of the P-36 Hawks were delivered, it was actually the largest peacetime delivery of aircraft received by the U.S. Army Air Corps. However, during World War II, Curtiss-Wright ballooned their employee base to roughly 180,000 workers in support of the war effort, and from 1940 to 1944, they were able to produce 13,738 P-40 Warhawks, along with 142,840 aircraft engines. Once World War II had concluded, Curtiss-Wright had withdrawn from the military aircraft competition. They decided that since the jet age was coming, they wanted to focus on commercial and jet aviation instead of solely on military. Though they no longer produced aircraft for the military, that does not mean they did not produce engines and equipment for them. The military was in the infancy of the jet age, and they required jet engines. And Curtiss-Wright provided them with the J-65 jet engine, which enjoyed a very long service life with the military. Aside from aviation, they were able to use the insight gained from aircraft design and the new field of electronics to create flight simulators, both for commercial and military uses. Curtiss-Wright also became highly involved in the U.S. Navy and their nuclear propulsion systems. They supplied safety and relief valves for the U.S.'s nuclear submarine and aircraft carrier fleets. And by 1967, they also received their first order for valves from a commercial nuclear power plant. And going a little further forward in time, once Intertek was acquired in 1998, they were actually able to expand the number of products they could provide to their commercial clients. Curtiss-Wright also owned the North American rights to the Wankel rotary engine, and that went on to be used in the Mazda RX-7 in the 1970s, and Actually, the RXs are still using rotary engines to this day. This particular engine was also adapted by Ingersoll Rand for a line of highly reliable rotary compressors. And today, though the number of employees is much smaller now, it's according to their LinkedIn page, it's between 5,001 and 10,000 employees. But just because there's fewer employees does not mean it's an indicator for success. This company started out reliant on one industry, and that was the aerospace industry. But over time, they have diversified the markets in which they operate in, and they have become one of the leading companies in many of those markets, such as power generation, oil and gas, and industrial equipment, and defense. So just because they're smaller now does not mean they are any less successful. If anything, they are more successful because they have diversified their market, and they are no longer reliant on a single one. The information I gathered for this report was pulled from Curtiss-Wright's website, as well as their LinkedIn, and for their stock information I used Trading Economics to get that information.